All right, welcome guys. In this video, we are going to be examining chapter 6.5 from the geometry textbook. We're looking at inequalities in two triangles now. All right, so we are going to start it off with the side angle side inequality theorem. So if we think back to side angle side, okay, what we probably had was two triangles here, and this was side angle side congruency. We knew, let's say this is triangle ABC here. This is triangle DEF over here. And let's say we know AB is congruent to DE. We know AC is congruent to DF. And then, we know A is congruent to D. Boom, that tells us these triangles must be congruent. For the side angle side inequality theorem now, well, obviously my triangles aren't going to be congruent if it's an inequality. So how's that going to change the problem? Well, we are still given, okay, in this problem, we are still going to be given two pairs of congruent sides. So we still know AB is congruent to DE, and we also know that AC is congruent to DF. However, the one thing that changes now is that angle A is not going to be congruent to angle D. That's where the inequality comes into play, is maybe we know that measure of angle A is greater than the measure of angle D. If that is the case, so this is where this side angle side inequality theorem tells us that if this angle is bigger than this one here, if I say this one is the smaller one and measure angle A is the larger one, what that tells us is that the side opposite angle A, so in this case BC, is going to be larger than the side opposite the smaller one. All right, so this tells us we're given AB is congruent to DE, AC is congruent to DF, and measure of angle A is greater than measure of angle D. Well, then we know that the measure of BC is greater than the length of EF. So the length of BC is greater than the length of EF because measure of angle A was greater than measure of angle D. All right, so that is the side angle side inequality. If we had known the opposite, so say measure of angle D was greater than measure of angle A, well then EF would be greater than EF is greater than BC. All right, so with this information in the blue, well, then we would be able to say EF is greater than BC. However, knowing that measure of angle A is greater than measure angle D would tell us BC is greater than EF. All right, and our second and final theorem is the SSS inequality theorem. Well, for SSS, we have two congruent triangles. All right, if I'm thinking back to the congruency, I have these two congruent triangles, and that's because all three sides are congruent. So this is what SSS congruency looked like. However, now it's SSS inequality. So again, I still know that two of the sides are congruent. I still know that two pairs of sides are congruent. So here, I know if AB is congruent to DE, and AC is congruent to DF. All right, now, boom, here's where the inequality comes into play. Instead of knowing that BC is congruent to EF, I know one of them is bigger than the other. For the sake of this problem, let's just say that BC is larger than EF. All right, so BC is greater than EF. Well, then what does that tell me? Then that tells me that the angle opposite the larger one is greater than the angle opposite the smaller side. So that tells me that the measure of angle A is going to be greater than the measure of angle D. All right, so that's the side inequality theorem. We saw the side angle side inequality theorem earlier. What you might notice is that the first part of each of these doesn't really change. Okay, we know that we have two pairs of congruent sides in both of these. Then the only piece of information that changes is, oh, well, here I know that one of the sides is bigger than the other side. So that tells me the angle is bigger than the other angle. Whereas in the side angle side inequality, it tells me that one of the angles is bigger than the other angle, allowing me to then determine that one of the sides is bigger than the other side. So hope you guys took some notes. We will be going over this more in class and really just working with problems on section 6.5 in class tomorrow.